For centuries, humanity has chased the same question. Why do some people build extraordinary wealth, while most never do? At first, the answer seems obvious. Perhaps they were born into privilege. Perhaps they were simply luckier, smarter, better connected. But history tells a different story. Again and again, self-made millionaires have emerged from ordinary beginnings. Some started in garages, some from small apartments, some with nothing more than an idea and the determination to pursue it. Different countries, different generations, different industries. Yet beneath their stories lies something surprisingly similar. A pattern. Imagine an iceberg floating in the ocean. The part above the surface is impossible to ignore. Massive, powerful, impressive, but nearly 90% of the iceberg remains hidden beneath the water. Wealth works the same way. Most people only see the visible results. The successful business, the beautiful home, the investment portfolio, the financial freedom. They admire the outcome, without ever seeing the foundation that made it possible. The years of discipline, the difficult decisions, the patience, the failures, the invisible habits repeated when nobody was watching. That is where wealth is actually created. And yet, almost no one teaches it. From childhood, we're taught how to earn money. Study hard, get a good job, build a career. But earning money and building wealth are not the same skill. One depends on your effort. The other depends on your decisions. That's why some people earn millions, yet retire with very little, while others, earning far less, quietly build lasting financial freedom. The difference isn't income. It's the blueprint, a way of thinking that transforms money from something you work for into something that works for you. In this documentary, we're going beneath the surface, through history, psychology, and timeless financial principles, to uncover the invisible blueprint that has quietly shaped self-made millionaires for generations. Because once you understand the blueprint, you'll stop asking, how can I make more money? And you'll begin asking a far more important question. How do I build wealth that lasts? The answer begins with the biggest financial illusion ever created. The belief that working harder automatically makes you wealthier. In 1901, a Scottish immigrant stood on the deck of a ship leaving New York Harbor. He wasn't arriving in America. He was leaving it. For good. His name was Andrew Carnegie. Less than 60 years earlier, he had arrived in the United States with almost nothing. His family lived in poverty. As a young boy, he worked in a cotton factory for wages that barely kept food on the table. By every definition of the time, he was just another worker trying to survive. Yet on that summer day in 1901, he left America as the richest man in the world. Not because he had worked harder than everyone else. Millions of people worked hard. Not because he had worked longer hours. Countless laborers spent their entire lives doing exactly that. Carnegie became wealthy because at some point he stopped selling only his time and started owning the systems that multiplied it. That single shift changed everything. Today, more than a century later, very little has changed. Walk through any major city before sunrise. You'll see buses already full, office lights switching on, construction sites coming alive, hospitals beginning another shift, restaurants preparing for the morning rush. Millions of people, each carrying the same hope. If I keep working hard enough, one day I'll finally become financially free. It's one of the most widely accepted beliefs in modern society. And it's also one of the most misunderstood. Hard work is essential. Without it, almost nothing meaningful is built. But history repeatedly shows that hard work alone has never guaranteed wealth. If effort were the deciding factor, the people performing the most physically demanding jobs would consistently become the wealthiest members of society. Instead, we see something completely different. Some of the world's highest-paid professionals struggle with debt. Professional athletes sign contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars, only to declare bankruptcy years later. Successful entertainers earn fortunes that disappear almost as quickly as they arrive. The problem was never their ability to generate income. The problem was believing income and wealth were the same thing. They aren't. Income is movement. Wealth is accumulation. Income is what flows into your life. Wealth is what remains, what grows, and what continues producing value long after the original work has been completed. That difference seems small. In reality, it changes every financial decision you'll ever make. Imagine two friends beginning their careers on the same day. They graduate from the same university, accept similar salaries, live in the same city. For several years, their lives appear almost identical. When one receives a promotion, so does the other. When one earns more, so does the other. But then something almost invisible begins to happen. The first measures success by what each raise allows them to buy. A larger apartment, a newer car, a more expensive lifestyle. Each achievement becomes another reward for years of hard work. The second celebrates differently. Instead of upgrading their lifestyle, they upgrade their ownership. A portion of every raise purchases something designed to produce future value. Shares in businesses, investments, skills, perhaps a company of their own. At first, the difference is almost impossible to notice. 5 years pass, nothing dramatic. 10 years pass, the gap begins to widen. 20 years later, their financial lives no longer resemble one another. One still depends entirely on the next paycheck. The other owns assets that continue generating income, whether they are working, traveling, or sleeping. The difference wasn't intelligence. It wasn't luck. It certainly wasn't the number of hours they worked. It was the direction their money traveled after it reached their bank account. Economists have a simple observation that rarely makes headlines. Income determines your standard of living. Ownership determines your standard of life. They're not the same thing. A higher salary can improve your lifestyle. Ownership has the potential to change your future. This is where society quietly misleads us. From childhood, we're encouraged to become valuable employees. Study hard, build a career, earn promotions, negotiate a higher salary. All of that matters. But very little attention is given to the next question. What happens after the paycheck arrives? Because every dollar has two possible destinations. It can finance today's lifestyle, or it can purchase tomorrow's freedom. Neither decision feels life-changing in the moment. That's the deception. Financial transformation rarely announces itself. It happens quietly. One investment, one decision, one ordinary choice at a time. Perhaps that's why wealth appears mysterious. People notice the mansion. They don't notice the 20 years spent building the foundation. They admire the company. They don't see the nights when nobody believed in the idea. They celebrate the investor. They rarely think about the decades of patience that came before the reward. The visible success is only the final chapter. The blueprint was written long before anyone noticed. And that raises an even more important question. If the blueprint is so simple, why do intelligent people ignore it every single day? Why do millions continue making financial decisions they know won't lead to freedom? The answer isn't found in economics. It's found in something far more powerful, the human mind. Because before wealth is ever built in a bank account, it is either built or destroyed inside the brain. Imagine placing 100 people in the exact same room. Give each of them the same amount of money, the same opportunities, the same investment options, the same amount of time. Now, come back 20 years later. Logic suggests their financial lives should look similar. After all, everyone started from the same place. Everyone had access to the same information. Everyone faced the same choices. Yet history and human behavior tell a completely different story. Some would quietly build fortunes. Some would achieve financial stability. Many would have little to show for the opportunity they were given. Why? If knowledge were enough, wouldn't everyone who reads a book on investing become wealthy? Wouldn't every financial advisor be a millionaire? Wouldn't every person who understands budgeting become financially free? Clearly, knowing what to do and actually doing it are two very different things. That realization transformed the field of economics. For generations, economists believed people made decisions logically. Spend less than you earn. Invest consistently. Avoid unnecessary debt. Allow time to compound your investments. The formula seemed straightforward. Then psychologists began asking a different question. What if human beings aren't nearly as rational as we think? The answers changed everything. In 1979, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky introduced a theory that challenged one of economics' oldest assumptions. Through years of research, they demonstrated that people don't simply evaluate facts. They evaluate feelings. The fear of losing $100 is often stronger than the excitement of gaining $100. The possibility of immediate pleasure frequently outweighs the promise of a greater reward in the future. In other words, our financial decisions are often emotional long before they become logical. And once you understand that, the blueprint behind self-made wealth begins to look very different. Because the greatest obstacle to building wealth isn't a lack of opportunity. It isn't inflation. It isn't even your income. It's the constant battle taking place inside your own mind. Every single day, that battle quietly shapes your future. Imagine walking through a shopping mall with no intention of buying anything. Within minutes, you're surrounded by carefully designed storefronts, bright lights, limited time discounts, words like exclusive, premium, and last chance. None of it is accidental. Entire industries invest billions of dollars understanding one simple fact. Human beings are easier to persuade emotionally than logically. When you believe you're making an independent decision, someone may have spent years studying how to influence it. Behavioral economists call one of these tendencies present bias. It's the natural tendency to value immediate rewards more than future rewards. From an evolutionary perspective, this instinct once helped us survive. Thousands of years ago, the future was uncertain. Food available today was often more valuable than food that might never come tomorrow. Saving energy made sense. Taking immediate opportunities increased the chances of survival. Our ancestors weren't thinking about retirement accounts. They were thinking about surviving until sunrise. The problem is that evolution moves far more slowly than society. The modern economy rewards long-term thinking, but our brains are still heavily influenced by instincts designed for a world that disappeared thousands of years ago. That creates an invisible conflict. One part of your brain wants security tomorrow. Another wants satisfaction today. Every financial decision becomes a negotiation between those two voices. One whispers, "You deserve it." The other quietly asks, "What will this decision cost you 5 years from now?" Most people never notice the conversation. They simply follow whichever voice speaks the loudest. Self-made millionaires aren't born without these instincts. They experience the same temptations as everyone else. The difference is that they learn to recognize them. They understand that emotions make excellent servants, but terrible financial advisors. Perhaps that's why Charlie Munger, the longtime business partner of Warren Buffett, once observed that consistently avoiding foolish decisions is often more valuable than constantly searching for brilliant ones. That idea sounds almost too simple, yet it reflects an uncomfortable truth. Building wealth is often less about doing extraordinary things and more about avoiding ordinary mistakes. The impulse purchase that becomes a habit, the investment abandoned because of temporary fear, the opportunity ignored because it didn't promise immediate results. Individually, these decisions seem insignificant. Repeated over decades, they become life-changing. And there is another invisible force quietly working against us. One so powerful that it shapes not only how we spend money, but how we define success itself. It is a force older than civilization, and one that every self-made millionaire eventually learns to master. Long before social media, long before television, long before advertising, Human beings were already comparing themselves to one another. Who had the larger harvest? Who owned more land? Who held more influence within the tribe? Comparison was once a survival instinct. Understanding your place within a group could determine your access to food, protection, and opportunity. In the modern world, that same instinct has become one of the greatest obstacles to building wealth. Because today, you're no longer comparing yourself to your neighbors. You're comparing yourself to millions of carefully edited lives. Every scroll presents another vacation, another luxury car, another dream home, another announcement of success. Rarely do you see the debt behind it, the sleepless nights, the failed businesses, the financial pressure, or the years of uncertainty that came before the photograph. You see the highlight, never the history. Psychologists call this social comparison theory. We naturally evaluate ourselves by measuring our lives against those around us. The problem is that comparison has no finish line. There will always be someone earning more, owning more, traveling more, displaying more. If your definition of success depends on keeping up with someone else, you'll spend your entire life running a race that cannot be won. This is exactly what advertisers understand. Modern marketing rarely sells products. It sells identity. A watch isn't presented as a way to tell time. It's presented as a symbol of achievement. A luxury car isn't marketed as transportation. It's marketed as status. The product is almost secondary. What you're really buying is the feeling attached to it. That feeling can be intoxicating for a while. Then something remarkable happens. Psychologists refer to it as hedonic adaptation. Human beings quickly become accustomed to improvements. The new car becomes normal. The larger house feels ordinary. The expensive phone loses its excitement. What once felt extraordinary becomes expected. And so the search begins again. A newer model, a bigger upgrade, another purchase promising the same excitement. The cycle repeats endlessly. This is why many people earn more every year, yet never feel wealthier. Their income grows, but so do their expectations. Their standard of living rises, while their financial freedom remains exactly where it was. Self-made millionaires understand this trap remarkably well, not because they reject success, but because they define it differently. Take Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart. By the late 1980s, he had become one of the richest people in America. Yet people were often surprised to see him driving an old pickup truck. He wasn't trying to prove a point. He simply refused to confuse wealth with display. To Walton, every unnecessary dollar spent on appearances was a dollar that could have been invested back into the business. The same mindset appeared in Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA. Despite becoming one of Europe's wealthiest individuals, he continued flying economy for many years. He drove modest cars. He was known for avoiding unnecessary luxury. Critics sometimes called it extreme. Kamprad saw it differently. He believed waste, especially waste disguised as status, was one of the greatest enemies of long-term wealth. These men weren't wealthy because they lived modestly. They lived modestly because they understood what wealth actually was. They recognized a truth that most people discover too late. Status is rented. Ownership is permanent. Status demands constant spending. Ownership quietly produces returns. Status depends on other people's attention. Ownership depends on long-term value. One fades the moment people stop looking. The other continues working, whether anyone notices or not. This is where the Millionaire Blueprint begins to separate itself from conventional thinking. Most people ask, how can I look successful? Wealth builders ask, how can I become valuable? Those questions lead to entirely different lives. One seeks approval. The other seeks freedom. One measures success by what can be seen. The other measures it by what is quietly growing beneath the surface. And perhaps that's why real wealth is often so difficult to recognize. Because the strongest foundations are almost always invisible. But even after overcoming comparison, even after mastering emotion, one question still remains. What exactly are self-made millionaires building that everyone else overlooks? To answer that, we have to examine the architecture behind every lasting fortune. Not the money, the system. Imagine walking through Manhattan in the early morning, before the streets fill with traffic, before office towers come alive. Look up. Steel and glass stretch toward the sky. Some of these buildings have stood for generations. Others replace structures that once seemed permanent. Yet every skyscraper, regardless of its height, shares one invisible truth. The most important part is the part no one sees. Long before the first beam rises above the ground, engineers spend months studying the soil, calculating weight, testing foundations, because they understand a simple principle. A building can never rise higher than the strength of what supports it. Wealth follows exactly the same law. People admire the visible success, the thriving company, the investment portfolio, the freedom to choose how each day is spent. But beneath every lasting fortune lies an invisible structure, a financial architecture that quietly supports everything above it. Without that structure, even extraordinary income eventually collapses under its own weight. This is precisely what happened to countless fortunes throughout history. They weren't destroyed by a lack of money. They were destroyed by a lack of foundation. The blueprint begins with one word: ownership. It sounds almost too simple. Yet ownership has quietly shaped every major fortune the modern world has ever known. To understand why, we have to travel back more than 400 years. In 1602, a group of Dutch merchants created something the world had never seen before: the Dutch East India Company. It wasn't merely another trading business. It introduced a revolutionary idea. For the first time, ordinary citizens could purchase shares in a company and participate in its success without sailing across oceans themselves. Instead of risking one voyage, investors owned a small piece of an enterprise that could undertake hundreds. The idea transformed commerce forever. It also transformed wealth, because for the first time in history, ownership itself became an asset. That principle still governs the global economy today. Every share of a company represents ownership. Every successful business exists because someone chose to own rather than merely participate. Ownership changes the question people ask. Most people ask, how much can I earn this year? Owners ask, what can I build that continues creating value next year and the year after that? Those questions produce entirely different decisions. One focuses on today's income. The other focuses on tomorrow's cash flow. Neither approach is wrong, but only one has the potential to continue generating wealth long after today's work has ended. This is why Warren Buffett once remarked that if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. It wasn't a criticism of hard work. Few people have studied businesses more intensely than Buffett himself. It was a reminder that labor has limits. There are only 24 hours in a day, only so much energy, only so many years. Ownership removes those limits. A well-run business can continue serving customers after its founder has gone home. A carefully selected investment can appreciate while its owner is asleep. A book can continue educating readers decades after it is written. A piece of software can solve millions of problems simultaneously. Ownership allows value to outlive effort. That is the first pillar of the blueprint. The second pillar is less visible, but even more powerful. Time. Not time measured by clocks, but time multiplied by consistency. In nature, almost everything extraordinary grows slowly. The tallest oak tree begins as an acorn. A canyon is carved one drop of water at a time. A glacier reshapes mountains through movements too small for the human eye to notice. The greatest forces on Earth rarely move quickly. They move consistently. Wealth obeys the same law. Compounding is often described as a financial principle. In reality, it is one of nature's oldest patterns. Small gains, repeated over long periods, eventually produce results that appear impossible to those who only witness the ending. One investment may seem insignificant. One new skill may not change your life. One wise financial decision rarely feels extraordinary. But consistency has a remarkable habit. It makes ordinary actions look extraordinary in retrospect. And that is exactly why so many people underestimate it. Human beings naturally notice dramatic events. We celebrate sudden success. We admire overnight sensations. Yet history quietly reminds us that what appears overnight was usually years in the making. The company that suddenly dominates an industry. The investor everyone suddenly admires. The entrepreneur described as an instant success. Look closely, and you'll often discover decades of invisible preparation beneath the surface. That is the architecture of wealth. Not dramatic moments, but disciplined repetition. And once you understand that, a new question begins to emerge. If ownership provides the foundation, and time multiplies the results, what transforms an ordinary life into an extraordinary one? The answer lies in a force so powerful. It has built empires, reshaped industries, and created fortunes that continued growing long after their founders were gone. Leverage. The word leverage often makes people uncomfortable. For some, it brings to mind debt. For others, unnecessary risk. But the greatest fortunes in history were rarely built because people borrowed more money. They were built because people discovered how to multiply their effort. Imagine asking one person to move a massive stone. It might take days. Now hand that same person a long wooden beam. The stone doesn't become lighter. The person doesn't become stronger. Yet suddenly, the impossible becomes manageable. That is leverage. It allows ordinary effort to produce extraordinary results. History is filled with people who understood this principle long before the word became part of modern business vocabulary. When Henry Ford built the moving assembly line in 1913, he wasn't trying to make his employees work harder. He was trying to make every hour of work more productive. Before the assembly line, building a single automobile required workers to move constantly from one station to another. Ford reversed the process. The work came to the worker. The result was astonishing. Production accelerated. Costs fell dramatically. Cars that were once considered luxuries became affordable to ordinary families. Ford didn't create more hours in the day. He multiplied the value of every hour that already existed. That is the true meaning of leverage. It's not about doing more work. It's about ensuring your work continues producing value long after the effort has been made. Today, leverage takes many forms. Technology allows one piece of software to serve millions of people simultaneously. A book can educate readers for generations. A video can reach audiences across continents. A business can continue generating revenue while its owner is asleep. The tools have changed. The principle hasn't. Self-made millionaires constantly ask a question that most people never consider. How can this decision continue creating value after I'm finished making it? That question changes everything because it forces you to stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like an architect. Architects don't build walls at random. They design systems. Every beam supports another. Every foundation carries future weight. Every decision serves a larger purpose. Wealth is constructed the same way. One asset strengthens another. One skill increases the value of the next. One investment creates opportunities for another investment. Over time, the entire structure begins supporting itself. This is why some people appear to make money effortlessly. The effort hasn't disappeared. It's simply no longer visible. The work was done years earlier. The systems remain. Perhaps no modern investor has explained this idea more clearly than Warren Buffett. Despite becoming one of the wealthiest individuals in history, the vast majority of his fortune came after his 50th birthday. Not because he suddenly became smarter. Not because he discovered a secret investment. but because decades of patient decisions finally reached the point where compounding began working faster than human effort ever could. That is one of the least understood truths about wealth. In the beginning, progress feels painfully slow. The first investment seems insignificant. The first business grows gradually. The first years require patience with very little visible reward. Many people quit during this stage, not because the blueprint has failed, but because the results haven't arrived quickly enough. Yet those who continue eventually reach a remarkable point. The systems they've spent years building begin producing results that no longer seem proportional to the effort invested. To an outside observer, it looks like success arrived overnight. History almost always tells a different story. What appears to be an overnight success is usually the visible reward for years of invisible preparation. This is where the Millionaire Blueprint quietly separates itself from conventional thinking. Most people spend their lives asking, how can I earn more? Wealth builders ask, how can I build something that keeps earning? One question creates income. The other creates independence. But even the strongest system faces an enemy. Not competition, not recessions, not changing markets. Time itself rewards those who remain consistent, but also exposes those who abandon the process too early. Which brings us to perhaps the rarest quality of all, the quality that transforms knowledge into lasting wealth: patience. In the spring of 2008, the world's financial system began to crack. Banks reported unexpected losses. Housing prices fell. Then came September. One of America's largest investment banks collapsed. Within days, panic spread across global markets. Investors watched years of savings disappear. Many sold. Some emptied retirement accounts. Others abandoned investments they had spent years building. It felt like the only reasonable choice. When everything around you appears to be collapsing, your instincts tell you to run, and millions did. But while fear dominated the headlines, a smaller group remained remarkably calm. Not because they welcomed uncertainty, but because history had taught them an important lesson. Markets rise, markets fall. Human emotions swing even more dramatically. This was not the first financial crisis, and it would not be the last. Every generation believes its crisis is different, yet history tells the same story. Economies recover. Innovation continues. New businesses emerge. Progress resumes. Those who stayed invested weren't predicting the future. They were trusting principles that had survived generations. Their greatest advantage wasn't intelligence. It was emotional discipline. That distinction changes everything. Anyone can feel patient when markets are rising. The true test comes when prices fall, when headlines predict disaster, and everyone around you believes the future is broken. Those moments reveal the difference between confidence and conviction. Confidence depends on circumstances. Conviction depends on principles. Self-made millionaires understand that wealth is often built during uncomfortable seasons. When others react emotionally, they return to the blueprint: ownership, compounding, leverage, systems. Because none of those principles change simply because today's headlines become frightening. This lesson extends far beyond investing. Every entrepreneur experiences setbacks. Every inventor faces rejection. Every athlete trains long before anyone applauds. Extraordinary results require surviving ordinary discouragement. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they underestimate the time success requires. Modern life encourages speed. Food arrives in minutes. Entertainment begins instantly. Messages travel across the world in seconds. Without realizing it, we expect success to move just as quickly. But wealth refuses to follow that timeline. Businesses need time to earn trust. Investments need time to compound. Skills need time to mature. Reputations need time to grow. Nature has always understood this. An oak tree grows slowly. A river carves stone through consistency. The blueprint asks us to do the same. Keep building. Keep learning. Keep investing. Because the greatest danger isn't moving slowly. The greatest danger is stopping. By now, the blueprint has become clear. Andrew Carnegie showed us that hard work alone is never enough. Psychology revealed that our greatest financial battles begin inside the mind. Ownership, leverage, systems, and compounding showed us how wealth is truly built. And history proved that patience is one of the greatest competitive advantages. But one question remains. Why? Why spend decades building businesses? Why invest consistently? Why delay gratification? Because money has never been the destination. Freedom is. People believe they want more money. What they truly want is more choice. The freedom to spend time with family. The freedom to pursue meaningful work. The freedom to walk away from situations that no longer serve them. Money, at its highest purpose, creates options. Imagine two equally talented people dreaming of starting a business. One depends entirely on the next paycheck. The other has quietly spent years building savings and investments. When opportunity arrives, one sees danger. The other sees possibility. The opportunity is identical. The preparation is not. That is why financial freedom often looks like luck. Preparation simply gives opportunity somewhere to land. Throughout history, those who acted during difficult times usually shared three advantages: time, liquidity, emotional discipline. Perhaps the greatest form of wealth is not having more, but needing less. Centuries ago, the Stoic philosopher Seneca observed that true prosperity comes from reducing unnecessary dependence. His insight remains timeless. Those who chase status endlessly never reach the finish line. Those who pursue freedom quietly leave the race behind. This doesn't mean thinking small. It means thinking clearly, building businesses that solve problems, creating products that improve lives, generating value before expecting rewards. History repeatedly reveals the same paradox. The people who create the greatest wealth spend less time chasing money and more time creating value. Money becomes the consequence, not the obsession. When wealth is built that way, it grows beyond the individual. It creates jobs, funds innovation, strengthens families, builds communities, supports future generations. At its best, wealth is not simply accumulated, it is circulated. That is why history remembers the greatest wealth builders, not for what they owned, but for what they built. Because the highest purpose of wealth has never been consumption. It has always been contribution. And that leads us to the final lesson. The principle that determines whether wealth disappears or continues creating value for generations. At the beginning of this documentary, we stood before an iceberg. We admired the part above the water, the visible success, the businesses, the investments, the financial freedom. But the real story was never what everyone could see. It was the foundation beneath the surface. That is where every lasting fortune begins. History remembers outcomes. It rarely remembers the process behind them. We remember Andrew Carnegie's empire. We often forget the years he spent mastering the steel business. We remember Warren Buffett's fortune. We rarely think about the decades compounding quietly worked while the world looked elsewhere. We celebrate companies that transformed industries. We seldom see the years of persistence, uncertainty, and failure that came first. Success has a way of hiding its origins. By the time the world notices the harvest, the seeds were planted long ago. Throughout this journey, one truth has appeared again and again. The Millionaire Blueprint was never secret. It was a series of ordinary decisions repeated with extraordinary consistency. Choosing ownership over consumption, patience over impulse, systems over shortcuts, long-term value over short-term appearance. None of these decisions feels extraordinary in the moment. That is exactly why they are overlooked. The world celebrates dramatic moments. History rewards quiet consistency, the investment you continue making, the book you choose to read, the business you refuse to abandon, the purchase you decide not to make. Small choices, repeated over years, become extraordinary results. History reveals another lesson. Many families create wealth. Few preserve it across generations. Money can be inherited. Character cannot. Assets can be transferred. Wisdom must be learned. True wealth is not a destination. It is a responsibility. The greatest wealth builders don't simply ask, "How much can I leave behind?" They ask, "What values will remain after I'm gone?" Because businesses can fail, markets can decline, currencies can lose value, but discipline, integrity, curiosity, and long-term thinking can rebuild what circumstances take away. That is why the blueprint matters. Not because it guarantees millions. No blueprint can promise that. Life will always contain uncertainty, but it offers something even more valuable: direction. It reminds us that wealth is rarely an accident. It is the cumulative result of thousands of seemingly ordinary decisions. And perhaps that is the most encouraging lesson of all. If wealth is built one decision at a time, then it can begin one decision at a time. Today, the next habit, the next investment in your knowledge, the next decision to build instead of consume, the next opportunity to think like an owner instead of simply an earner. Every lasting fortune has begun exactly there, not with extraordinary resources, but with ordinary decisions repeated long enough to become extraordinary. So the next time you admire someone's success, don't ask how high they climbed. Ask what lies beneath the surface. Because beneath every enduring fortune, you'll almost always find the same invisible foundation. A way of thinking before a way of earning. A commitment before a reward. A blueprint before a fortune. Perhaps the greatest realization is this: the blueprint has never been hidden because it belonged to a privileged few. It remained hidden because it demands qualities the modern world rarely rewards. Patience, discipline, ownership, responsibility, long-term thinking. These principles won't make headlines. They won't deliver overnight success, but they have quietly built fortunes for generations. Empires have risen. Industries have changed. Technology has evolved. Yet the blueprint has remained remarkably constant, because it was never built on trends. It was built on human nature. As you leave this documentary, don't measure your progress by what you can buy this year. Measure it by what you are building for the next 10. Don't chase the appearance of wealth. Build the foundation that creates it. Because history rarely remembers those who spent the most. It remembers those who built the most. They built businesses. They built ideas. They built opportunities. They built futures. And long after they were gone, their blueprint continued creating value. Thank you for watching The Wealth Lab. If this documentary changed the way you think about wealth, share it with someone building their future one decision at a time. Because the greatest investment you will ever make is not in a stock, or a business, or real estate. It is in the mindset that shapes every decision that follows. Change the blueprint, and everything else begins to change with it.